I have a story for you today that's all about the family that sea urchins, sand dollars, sea stars, brittle stars, sea cucumbers, and even the sea lilies belong to. That family is a phylum called Echinodermata, the echinoderms. Well, all of these animals have spiky skin, which is why they're named after the Greek word echinos, which means hedgehog, and derma, which means skin. They have hedgehog skin. Animals usually have bilateral symmetry, which means if you were to draw a line in the center, the right and left sides would be identical or mirror images. Just think of your body if you drew a line from the top of your head all the way down through your center, through your torso, down to the ground. Well, you have a lot of the same things on the right side as you do the left side. You have an arm on the right side and an arm on the left side. You have a leg on the right side and a leg on the left side. You only have one belly button, but imagine if it were drawn so a line goes through the center. You would have half of a belly button on the right side and half of a belly button on the left side. Humans have bilateral symmetry. So do cats and even fish. But some animals have something called radial symmetry, and the echinoderms are one of them. Think of a wheel with spokes going out from the center. Well, each of these sections would be symmetrical to each other. But the echinoderms have a very special type of radial symmetry called pentameral symmetry, which means there are only 5 spokes, just like the number of arms on a sea star. Only the adults have this pentameral symmetry. The larvae of the echinoderms actually have bilateral symmetry. Isn't that funny? Well, another interesting feature of the echinoderms are, besides their spiny bumps that they're covered with, and their 2 feet, which we'll get to in a little bit, they have these little arm-like structures sticking out of their skin. They're called Disilaria, and these Disilaria work to keep the echinoderm clean. You see, if there's any dirt that's on the skin of an echinoderm, these Disilaria move them one minuscule piece of debris at a time from one hand to the other, all the way until that piece of debris is off of the animal, unless it's edible, in which case it moves it to its mouth. Just think about if you've ever looked inside of a tide pool, either out in nature or inside of an aquarium, or maybe you've looked in books at pictures of sea animals. Don't they always look very clean? It's that Disilaria. Well, how these animals eat is truly fascinating. It's a game of patience. So the echinodermia finds the animal it wants to eat, a bivalve, maybe a mussel like what's in this picture, and they wrap their arms around it until their arms are right in the right place, and then they very gently start to pull the bivalve open. Now, they would have to pull 100 times harder to get this open by force, but their game is one of patience. So they just gently pull for a long time until the animal gets so tired it gives up. But then, once the shell is open, the echinoderms actually send their stomach out. They evert their stomach to go inside of the bivalve, and then the juices eat and consume the meat that's inside. Then they pull their stomach back inside their bodies. Can you imagine eating that way? Well, the echinoderm moves around by using water in its body. So it has a special place at the top called the madreporite. And this madreporite brings water into the animal. The animal has channels going throughout its body, like little canals that it sends the water down after it gets pulled in by the madreporite. Well, as the water is going down these canals, it's being channeled into these smaller areas. And just like the veins on our body that pump blood from our heart, these echinodermata have a water vascular system. So think of the veins of our body bringing blood all over. Well, this animal has these canals that bring water all over. Now, once the water is going up through the canal, it reaches these circular parts first. These are called ampulla. The ampulla are a lot like our heart. You know, our heart pumps our blood through our body. Well, the ampulla are in charge of pumping water to the tube foot. Remember we talked about tube feet earlier. Well, these tube feet work by water being pumped from the ampulla out into the tube foot, which makes the tube foot get long and skinny. There are also muscles in these tube feet, and so they use their muscles to move about. Now, when the animal is ready to be still, to rest somewhere, the ampulla pumps water back out of the tube foot into that canal, that channel here. And when it does that, it creates a suction on the tube foot. So just like a suction cup, the animal can use its tube foot to adhere to a rock or whatever it wants to rest on. And then it's on there really, really tight. Well, perhaps you would like to learn more about any of these animals. Maybe you would like to figure out what they eat, or where they live, or if they have any predators, or anything else you're interested in. These are the 6 animals that belong to this phylum: the sea urchin, the sand dollar, the sea star, the sea cucumber, the sea lilies, and the brittle star. You can also see all of these animals at the beginning of our timeline of life, which I've included a picture of. See if you can find these 6 animals on there. I would love to hear about anything you find out that you think is interesting about the Echinoderma.